Hello and welcome to the Boost Over Ball podcast, your go-to place for everything Rocket League with your hosts, K-Cube, AJ Binky, and Red. So lean forward, lock in, and get ready to go Boost Over Ball.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Boost Over Ball podcast. To listeners new and old, hello and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kyle, K-Cube, and I'm joined today by the full crew. We got Red and AJ here. It's been a while, but glad to be back with everybody. Red, how are you doing?
Doing good. Good to be back. Good to have the full crew. Get the full Yap session going here. It should be a fun time.
Oh, yeah. AJ, what about you?
Doing pretty good. Just getting my ticket for Worlds.
Hell yeah. So today's episode, I was a little bit worried at the start of the week that we wouldn't have much to talk about, but that we wouldn't have anything to talk about. But it turns out we do. We'll be talking about the Shift Summer League, what we know, what happened, some speculations about what might happen moving forward with that and some of the repercussions that it had. We'll be talking about the last Worlds spot that is now back up for grabs, kind of. An announcement that about us at Worlds and, stuff like that. And then we'll finish off by talking about the 9 teams that have been announced for the FIFA E World Cup featuring Rocket League. So without further ado, you guys ready to jump right in?
Let's do it.
Hell yeah. So this goes back a little bit, a little over a week. But, we had the interview last week with DJ. So as of August 6th, about 20 minutes before the kickoff of this Shift Summer League, which I will, moving forward be referring to it as the SSL League, or SSL, the playoff bracket, it was announced that playoffs were being postponed indefinitely. It was then announced via Twitter through via Dexdero on Twitter that Oxygen Esports / Boston Breach, which is their CDL affiliate, their franchise spot, which is owned by Kraft Sports and Entertainment, owned by Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, is in the process of laying off all of their staff and releasing all of their rosters effective immediately. So with that being said, what does this mean for the Shift Summer League? Quick Fix Media was the sponsor of the tournament and the financial backer of the prize pool. This is a subsidiary of Oxygen Esports and is the official media group of Oxygen. It announced that they will be ceasing operations along with Oxygen Esports, which then pulled the financial backing and the prize pool and the payment for the employees and the staff of this event. And so as of right now, the tournament appears to be dead in the water with no prize pool, no way to pay the staff and the employees who've been working the event. And so pending a new sponsor or an influx of cash to supplement the prize pool and pay the staff, the tournament seems to be indefinitely canceled. What are your guys' thoughts on this announcement?
Called it.
Yep.
Yeah, hate to say it, that there's always that kind of thought in the back of the head that something was going to happen to cause this not to work out. That just has been the running trend with the volatility of Rocket League and in esports in general right now. Hopefully we can get a little more concrete next year. But as we've seen from this year and everything changing, stuff happens. Nothing is forever here in RL Esports. It sucks. The Summer Shift League was was very competitive. It was very fun to watch. It was a great thing to take our minds off of waiting for and waiting for Worlds. But if it's not a profitable organization, or there's something on that side of things where a company has to pull out, then you got to pull out, and it sucks for the teams, but there's not much you can do.
There certainly is not. But speaking of volatility, I think it's a good time to talk about the long-term effects that this might have. This is one of the biggest off-season tournaments of the year and now no longer has financial backing. This is yet another example of the volatility of esports and the precarious nature of RLCS and RL esports in general. there aren't enough reasons for organizations to hold on to their rosters throughout the offseason. As we've talked about previously, Luminosity, Cloud9, and Moist dropping their rosters, at least for the time being. Now Oxygen, which I think a lot of people would agree, although they're not going to Worlds, they were one of the hottest teams in the world down the stretch. It's a shame, RIP Wildcard, that we won't get to see them again, but they now no longer have organizational backing. Do they stick together? Do they go their separate ways now that they don't have, a paycheck or a team to go back to? Like, how do you move forward if you're an unsigned team?
Well, I guess ask the LG boys, ask Cloud9, Moist. I mean, it's just becoming the norm at this point, and I think all you can really do is continue playing the game. And once the next season comes around, I'm sure these players, I mean, thinking of the names that are currently on the FA list, per se, I think there'll be plenty of those players getting signed back to teams. Now that team composition is yet to be seen, but I think this is a temporary downtime for these players. Yet another reason that we should have had Wildcard, because if we had Wildcard, these teams would have stuck together and there wouldn't be any disbanding, and there'd be more Rocket League, and we wouldn't worry about Summer Shift League, and I could go on forever.
Yeah, and it's really, really interesting because of the way that this kind of went down, kind of seemingly came out of nowhere. So, I mean, I give Shift a lot of props for, postponing the event, despite the fact that they're 20 minutes away from the playoff bracket starting. Like, they knew pretty quickly that, they weren't going to be able to pay the people that they needed to pay. So they cut their losses and just stopped the playoff bracket indefinitely. So, I think it gives another sponsor, if they have, if they want to join the fray on this one, an opportunity to sponsor the playoff bracket, which I think, like, the whole playoff bracket in its entirety, which is awesome. But then, on the flip side of the coin, for those unsigned teams, the Red Bulls Magic Cheese roster that we saw, that's a phenomenal showing from them in NA. And, same, like 100%, another good showing for them in EU. Like, these are teams that aren't signed right now and I think we're going to use this kind of as a springboard. Like, hey, look, this is how we competed. We played against the best, and, this is how we did. So not being able to finish out the tournament and capitalize on their run of form is unfortunate, I think, for a lot of these teams. But, I really do hope that we get to see this tournament kind of get off the ground. But, that being said, we are a little less than a month away from RLCS action, which is awesome. The World Championship's getting underway. They've also started to announce more and more about the FIFA eWorld Cup, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So it certainly seems like there's a lot to look forward to. The Esport Olympics in 2025 in Saudi Arabia, which appear to include Rocket League, which would be another big win for Rocket League in general. So, we've talked about it before. We've beaten dead horses about, different ways that orgs can make money in Rocket League, whether that's through the combination of skins or, decal purchases or, contributing some money from a specific decal to a prize pool to help supplement things. Like, I think that there's a lot of options, and we've talked about them all before, but is there one that kind of sticks out to you guys as, like, your favorite idea of ways that it could be maybe more incentivized for organizations to stick around?
I still love, like, allow the people to support teams, support prize pools. I know, like, we've talked about, I think it was League or Dota, right, that does they announce the prize pool, but then you can buy like a skin or like a decal or something, and that money would go to increasing the prize pool. Like, that is something Rocket League players would totally get behind. There are very few people out there in Rocket League that haven't spent some form of money on this game to get a skin, car, boost, wheel. Like, we are not afraid to put money into the game, to help, especially if it's for something like growing the player base, growing the popularity, growing that prize pool, so these pro players can get out there. I would love to see that. It could be something as simple as how they create, a new decal for every major. You had the Boston major, a lot of major, and like they're creating these specialized decals and boosts and wheels, right? Do the same thing but make it so that when they buy that, even if it's just a percentage, a good starting point, a percentage of your purchase of the major specific decal or decoration or whatever goes to that prize pool.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yep.
I'll go next, then I'll go second, and I'll use a cop-out answer, I guess, and I think that that's going to be changing the format. So it doesn't necessarily have to be lengthening the RLCS season. I think you just need to, like, adding more events. I mean, although we'd love the third major again, or bringing back the third major, but, like, spreading out the season a little bit. Right? Like, it was, you know, we talked about in a previous episode, it was like 100 and some days between the first and the last event in NA, and it was like, you know, 10 days less between the last event and Worlds. Like, they spaced out the season, you know, by pushing Worlds back an extra 2 months. But, like, I feel like if you do, maybe instead of competing every week for, you know, every other week, you compete every third week, or you put 2 months in between the first and the second split, give teams a chance to make roster moves and, you know, to boot camp for the start of the split. And then, you know, in my opinion, ideally you start the season like beginning of February or end of January, give everybody some time to, like, relax after the holidays and the new year, and then, you know, get back into it. And then you have your World Championships October-ish, end of September, October, and then you have November, December, and then part of January to recover and, you know, to reboot. And then that leaves still time for, like, your FIFA E World Cups, your Gamers 8, your esports Olympics, all that kind of fun stuff. So, and then also bringing back Wildcard, I think, will help a tremendous amount as well, keeping teams interested and also preventing some certain teams from making roster changes, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But AJ, what about you? You got an idea that sticks out to you most?
I think the smaller tournaments help. I like both your ideas for sure. But, like, they have the Rumble tournament, the ones tournament, and the twos tournaments coming up. And I think it's a good start. And that's all. I'm spinning this in a different way. I think they're going in a direction here.
they are.
And I think it's not a terrible one.
Yeah, they certainly. This is a direction. It's one of the directions
Yep.
ever.
Exactly. So I think it's something. You know, they're trying.
They are indeed. But was there anything that you guys wanted to touch on about the Shift Summer League, or, you know, any of the ripple effects that this has caused before we jump into the World Championship news?
I mean,
No.
League play is great. We want to look at doing league play again. Would love that. Big fan. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's a shame. I would have loved to see, you know, G2 was doing well, RMC was doing well, Gen G was looking like Gen G again. I mean, it was good to see teams getting back in form. Unfortunate that we won't be able to see that again until World start.
So I just thought of this. It's not on the Google Doc, but it's a question that you're talking about league play reminded me of. How would you guys feel about alternative split formats?
So, like, alternating between, like, league play and,
So,
like
let's say we keep the 2 split format, right? Like,
Okay.
you got Major 1 and you got Major 2, and then that's the division.
Uh-huh.
But due to the fact that Major 2 is more heavily weighted for the World Championships,
Mm-hmm.
you do Major 1 as is. You keep the same format. You maybe, you know, make it a little bit easier for teams that are in the top, you know, 8 to qualify as you move forward, right? Like maybe doing like a close qualifier type thing, but, like, for the most part, keep it the same. And in the second one, you do league play.
I think that's a cool idea.
It'd definitely be cool. I'm curious to see how it'd be received.
Yeah.
Because also, you know, you got to figure out how you're going to space all of that as well. So
Yeah, but I mean,
I'd be intrigued.
We've talked about it, right? It's like if you keep the Major 1 exactly how it is, and, you know, then you have like ideally like 4 months for split 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really change a whole lot of the timing, in my personal opinion, right? And it's like you use split 1 basically as a weeding out process of a way to get your top 16 teams for split 2.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see.
It would certainly be hard because like it kind of takes away the open qualifier aspect of it.
Yeah, so how would you qualify for the league?
I mean, I still think that you should do it like the top, however much you want to do, right? Like you do top 16 or top 20 from the first split. Get invited to the league play, or you do some kind of like bracket event, like if you have a bunch of teams that are like tied for 16.
It would just be teams from split 1 that qualified for split 2.
Yes.
Okay.
Because like right now, if like it's not going to happen, right? But like you almost saw it happen. Karmine Corps dominated Major 1 and then absolutely shit the bed in split 2 and still made the World Championships. But like you could have somebody that didn't even compete in split 1, show up for split 2, win all 3 events and make it. That seems weird to me. Like, I feel like if you're in, you're in. But then you'd have to come up with certain rules, like if teams break up or do roster changes, like do the points stay with the organizations or the players? I feel like if you keep them with the organizations,
the points.
Yeah,
1/3 per player, right?
I mean, that's certainly one way to do it. Or you keep the points under the so like if like for instance G2, right? They're not going to make a roster change, but like if G2 decided to make a roster change and like pick up an entirely different roster, they'd keep their points. So like if they stay under the organizational banner, then it gives more incentive for the orgs to keep their rosters and to stay in the scene.
For sure. That'd be good for the orgs for sure.
Yeah, but I'm like you said, like both of you said, there'd be a lot of pushback. There'd be a lot of things to iron out. But you're talking about league play made me think of that, and I thought that it would be an interesting concept, at least.
I feel like we should do a whole episode on fleshing that out.
I am down. We still got episodes 1, 2, 3. We still got 4 episodes to go before Worlds, and the one right before Worlds is going to be our preview. So we have 3 episodes to do still.
Sweet.
But speaking of Worlds, it was announced on Twitter. It was going around on Twitter for a while that anything from MENA will be forfeiting their spot in Worlds and will no longer be competing. And I personally kind of thought that it was a joke, or people were like debating someone. But if you check the Liquipedia page, the second MENA spot is currently up for grabs. Also, if you look at Liquipedia, Nuepo is no longer on the anything roster. He currently is rostered under Twisted Minds. So it has not been confirmed by any means, but it is rumored that Twisted Minds will take the second MENA spot. And that roster, according to Liquipedia, is currently Nuepo, SMW, and Mason, after Ahmad retired. However, the big thing is, for Worlds teams, they cannot make roster moves between Major 2 and the World Championships. All of the teams that currently have qualified have not made roster moves and are not allowed to. None of the MENA teams were prepared for anything to forfeit their spot, and they all made roster moves in some capacity. So no one really seems to know what team is going to be following Team Falcons to Dickey's arena in September, but I am extremely intrigued to see how they sort this all out.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about it with some friends as well, and there's 2 routes you go with this. Obviously, you just forgive the rule in this scenario and go with the next best team, which in this case would be Twisted Minds. However, that brings up the precedent of players could then leave teams, join another team that could then like disband a team that's got a spot, join the team that's right below them that may be a more favorable scenario for them, and then all of a sudden they're back in that world spot, which doesn't really leave a good taste in anyone's mouth. Or they stick to those rules and now you have a team of GC1s going to Worlds.
I want to see that.
I don't. For their mental health, I don't.
But for
No
my
one-
entertainment,
Everyone's like, I want to perform in that high level lobbies.
Nah,
I
they
know I'll
just
get
be hard
better.
to watch.
There's a point when there's too high of a level that you can perform in where you're just a little kid getting pushed around.
Yep.
So I'm curious to see what Blast will rule in that regard. I think
Interesting.
for competitive sake, this would be one of those just one-off scenarios. You let Twisted Minds in and just call it a day. Because unless there's like a team that's like next in line that didn't make any roster changes that could definitely compete at that level, then I would be okay. Like just stick it to the rule. These other teams like Bravado and Team Rock, sure they won't bring the same quality as anything or Twisted Minds, but like I wanted to check here. Is Team Rock, they haven't made any.
Twisted Minds, R8, Bravado, Team Rock have all made moves.
Did they? Did Team Rock? Are you sure?
I am fairly confident that they all left 6/17.
Oh, true.
The team
They
disbanded.
all disbanded. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Vision Esports would be
the next one,
Yes.
and they got a total of what is that? 40. They have 40 points. They're tied with Team Rock. Vision Esports consists of Dr. Known, Ops, Nush, and Nitri as the sub, with Idris as the coach. I mean,
And they just acquired the roster, though it does show that they joined on the 17th of June or July, sorry, but they just acquired the roster. No moves were made.
yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is too is like, say Team Rock, like all of a sudden they get the notification, hey, if you bring your team back, y'all can compete in Worlds. Like, would they be allowed to compete in Worlds if were able to get the spot, if they re-signed everybody that they originally had at the roster? Because at that point, the points would still stand, right? Or are we getting super niche where it's like, nah, if you made any roster change, even if it's dropping and picking the same guy back up, you're considered ineligible.
See, that's the part that I don't know, because the old RLCS was the 2/3 rule, right? If you change 2 of the 3 players, then you forfeited. I think it was like half your points.
Yeah.
I
So
thought it was all of them.
it might have been. I think you're right. I think it was all your points. But like, in my opinion, if you want Mina to put the best foot forward, you send Twisted Minds
Agreed.
to continue up with the momentum that they had going, right?
Although, to be fair, the momentum that the second seed from Mina had wasn't great.
No, they just coasted.
But it still would probably be better than, say, the 5th or 6th seed out of Mina.
I agree
there's a
wholeheartedly.
rule that says they can't make a roster change, right? Before
Yes.
Worlds.
Yes.
You have to make
So-
roster changes in the roster
team that-
change window.
Right. The team that made the roster change, the team that qualified for Worlds made the roster change and are no longer able to go.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I don't know what happened. That's still the mystery.
right.
So like Nuepo ended up
But-
leaving, but like I don't know if he
For
left
whatever reason,
because
the second
they
team
couldn't
from
go.
Mina is not going.
correct.
So, I feel like it would have to be nobody goes in their place because nobody else qualified.
Did they just vacate the spot? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Whoever would play that team would just get a bye. I don't see how they would do it any other way. Like, it wouldn't make sense.
Well, I mean, okay.
No
who
other
would
team
get a
qualified.
bye now? Who would get lucky enough to get that bye?
I mean, there's a group stage, right? So there's.
Oh
gonna
yeah,
be
I guess
multiple
there's
teams.
Swiss. It'd be
Yeah.
multiple teams. And oh god, yeah, they would be. Because just checking now, like Swiss stage, they have TBD for that spot because it's not been announced yet. So I mean, I feel like that would mess so many things up though in that Swiss stage if you just completely
Yeah,
X
it would.
out that team.
But it's gonna be the same thing if a different team goes in there. Like, sure, maybe if Twisted Minds goes in, they squeak one out over another team. But
I still feel like just for
Like, no other-
logistics sake, they would probably rather bring in a team that would most likely not do well over just not giving a spot at all.
Do
Yeah, but
you
no other team qualified.
do
It
you
wouldn't make sense.
do you look into?
There's no way they bring in another team.
You don't think so?
No.
Like
No, it's gonna
like
be
an
a bye.
Oxygen? Well, not Oxygen anymore, but like, you know what I mean?
It's I don't. They're not going to bring in another team.
So, looking at, and I don't think they do this, but currently the highest point getter not going to the World Championships is Elevate with 97. Then you have in second place you have Chiefs Esports and Complexity, then Oxygen, then Luminosity.
Yeah, do you give that spot to a different region? I don't think like to choose the next region in that scenario. Like there'd be so much heat
No.
getting from that.
Yeah.
Because like I'm trying to think of teams, it definitely would be, but like, or what if you grab the number one team that didn't make Worlds from every region and do a competition for it?
Do an impromptu world.
No, it still screws me out of a spot.
impromptu wild card.
You bring the top MENA team.
You just do an impromptu wild card essentially.
Exactly.
for that
Yes.
spot. I mean, do we really think they'd be able to?
Oh,
organize
no.
that?
The top team that didn't already qualify.
Yes,
Yeah.
from every region.
And then
Ugh.
do like impromptu, like
So it would be
Swiss stage or whatever.
I
Like
think that's the best way to
double
go
alien.
about it if they bring in another team.
also notably, Oxygen Esports. They may not be
Doesn't
they may not be Oxygen anymore, but they have the same roster. Luminosity Gaming.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not Luminosity, but they still have the same roster. Chiefs Esports, same roster. Complexity Gaming, same roster. Elevate has disbanded as far as I know. It's a different, I believe it's a different roster. Yeah,
It is?
no, yeah. It's Kevin Sphinx
Okay,
ZPS.
I think that's the best way to do it. But
Do I have
they're not
confidence
gonna
that
do
they're going to do it? No.
international competition that isn't an international tournament.
I would agree.
They're not going to have another team to fill that spot. It's going to be a bye for whoever plays that team.
Interesting. Well, 'cause,
That's
like,
my call.
So Vision Esports has 40 RLCS points. In Europe, there are 4 teams. In NA, there are 3 teams. Oceania has 3 teams. SAM has 4 teams that are that are 40 or higher points. APAC has 4. SSA has 3. There's a lot of teams that have more than 40 RLCS points. So while I agree you need to have representation from MENA, especially the way that they've been performing, there isn't a team that hasn't made a roster move that is deserving of the spot, in my opinion.
There's no team deserving of that spot other than that second place team that isn't going now for whatever reason that qualified for that spot.
So you think
No
that
other
they
team
should
deserves it.
So you think they should do a bye?
Yeah.
Even with the Swiss stage, so you're giving 3
Yeah.
3 free wins to teams?
Yeah, it sucks, but nobody else qualified for it. Yeah. Like
It also they've removed
can't give it to another region.
So I would agree with that. I don't think that they should, but something is going to change, and I guarantee that it is, because on the Liquipedia page, that 16th spot has changed from anything to be determined. The seeding is currently not confirmed in the rule book. The round 1 Swiss matchups are no longer shown. Everything's going to change in terms of like seeding and first round matches and things like that. It also says MENA team to be determined. So I think that it's going to be a MENA team. I'm just intrigued. I feel like Twisted Minds filled the roster because Ahmed retired, and Ahmed announced that he would not be playing in the World Championships, so they can't just bring their old roster back. So I am super intrigued to see what happens and to see what like transpires over the next couple of days to
Yeah. Me too.
with this spot. But
I feel like it's just inviting a shitstorm if any team that made a roster change gets it.
I would tend to agree. But what are your feelings, and what are your feelings if they bring the team back?
If they made if they bring the team, what do you mean?
So, like, let's say, for instance, you know, in our MENA rankings, it's currently Falcons, Anything Twisted Minds, R8. What if R8 comes back and said, you know what, we'll bring back our roster before we made the roster changes, and we'll go with that team?
I mean, it's one of
I feel
those.
like that's fine, but they also didn't qualify for Worlds.
Right.
So I feel like it's not fine in that sense.
Well,
Because
anything
they didn't qualify.
Twisted Minds can't bring back their roster because Ahmed said he's not coming out of retirement.
Right. Right.
So the only roster move that Twisted Minds made was to bring in Nuepo, who had left Anything, to fill in a spot that someone retired. So, like, I feel like you have to decide if that is a true roster move, which it certainly feels like. Nuepo certainly, in my opinion, gives them a better chance to win. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a roster change.
Yeah, it's going to be a shit show.
Yeah. I will be shocked
It will be.
if Mina has a second team. If that spot gets filled, I will be shocked.
It'll be interesting to see what they roll, and hopefully we get a ruling soon. Because the longer they wait, the longer, if they do decide a different team is able to come to Worlds, the shorter notice they have to get flights, get visas, and get to Worlds. Because it's a little far away from MENA to Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah, and I don't even know from a visa standpoint if they could get a visa in time now.
Yeah, it's like unless you're able, like, Blast is able to maybe like push something through, like with Expedition or something, but
Or like shift the visa
I'd be
from the
shocked.
Anything roster to the new. I don't know.
Yeah. That'd be nice, but
But interesting conversation. We will keep everyone posted as we hear more about this. As more information is given out or even announced on Twitter. We will keep everyone up to date. But anything else you guys want to add about that before we talk about Worlds?
Nope.
Not the World spot, but the fact that we are in fact going to Worlds. The Boost Overball podcast crew will officially be headed to Dickies Arena. We can't wait to see all of you guys there. We'll be working with the media team to bring you some awesome pictures. Thanks, AJ. Player and coach interviews and much more. The biggest thing that I can say about that is if you listen to us, if you know us, if we've done interviews with you, if you have talked to us and interacted with us on social media or seen us in person before, come say hi. I love meeting new people, especially it's very weird to meet people who listen to me on the internet. But, if you do, come say hi. We'll have stickers to give out. We'll maybe be giving out some other stuff as well. But we just enjoy watching Rocket League. We enjoy meeting people who have similar interests to us. And I, for one, would be super excited to meet anyone that cares to meet us. So
yeah, it'll be fun. Looking forward to it.
We are super excited to make the trip and to finally be at an RLCS event this season after 2 EU majors. But yeah. So anything else you guys want to add about Worlds before we talk about the FIFA E World Cup?
so do it.
Okay. So we've had 3 batches of announcements with 3 countries apiece for the FIFA E World Cup featuring Rocket League, and those teams are, in the first announcement, were Brazil, Spain, South Africa. The second announcement being Belgium, England, and Saudi Arabia. And the third batch of announcements being Morocco, the United States, and the Netherlands. So, of the teams that have been announced thus far, what team do you think has the best chance of winning out of these 9?
Fact
Brazil.
that France isn't here yet, I'm gonna say USA.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess we got Daniel in beast mode. Yeah.
Daniel Beast Mode Atomic. Boom.
G2. You just
Daniel
have
beast
G2.
mode third. Yeah.
Yeah.
Daniel beast mode you.
Oh man. I mean, if France was in here, I would have probably said France.
Yeah,
But they're
and
not. So
they have not been
I
announced
imagine I imagine they will be.
They have
But-
to.
From this group right now, we're saying USA all the way, just like the Olympics.
I'm sticking with Brazil.
Okay. I mean, you have
Shocker, AJ picking the Sam.
you
Shocker.
also
Yeah.
one thing that you have to think about here too is you also just have Team Falcons.
Yeah.
True. So
Granted, they didn't look
definitely-
amazing in the finals in Major 2, but
Yeah.
they're a very good team.
But they made it there.
Yes,
They made it,
exactly.
yeah.
But yeah, so I'm excited to see what other teams are announced. I'm sure France will be announced in probably in the next wave of announcements. I'm interested to see how many teams that they will bring in. I'm not sure if it's going to be 16, if it's going to be 12, if it's going to be 32. I don't know what kind of style they're going to do. If they're going to do a league, like a bracket play kind of situation like they do in the regular World Cup, but we'll have to wait and see on that one as they will announce more about that in the coming weeks. But was there anything
We know
else?
what the prize pool for that's going to be.
I do not.
Not yet. They have not announced that.
Okay. So are the pros going to care if it's not that much?
I feel like yes.
Think so?
I feel like the fact that it's representing your country, I think will
Yeah,
make
that's
people
fair.
care a little more. But I would
That's
also
fair.
be shocked if the prize pool wasn't at least good. If you're gonna run, it's FIFA E, and I imagine FIFA's got some
They got stacks on stacks.
money to throw
Ah, for
around.
real.
Yeah, they took all those bribes to put the World Cup in Qatar. They got money.
Ooh,
Sorry.
spicy thing.
But yeah, I mean, and if it's anything like football or soccer in America, the Olympic soccer is less desirable than the World Cup. So if you ask me, this is FIFA trying to adapt a little bit and get out ahead of the esport Olympics, which were also announced recently. So
Oh, God.
I think it will be interesting to see. They might care equally about them, right? A chance to compete for your country to compete for an Olympic medal is a huge honor and would be super cool. So I will be interested to see if the players prefer one to another, if the rosters stay the same for both of them, or how it's going to work. So certainly a new avenue of Rocket League to enjoy that we haven't seen in quite a while, in at least in any official competitive fashion, other than some show matches. But this is hopefully some will lead to some very exciting things for Rocket League in the future.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
It should indeed. But was there anything else that you guys wanted to add about the FIFA E World Cup, about Worlds, about Mina, about anything we talked about today, or anything Rocket League related?
See y'all in Texas.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
See ya in the big old Texas.
Everything's bigger.
Yeehaw.
But with that, we'd like to thank you guys so much for listening. We'd like to remind you to please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, join our Discord, and rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, make sure to check out our Twitch, our TikTok, our merch store, and all of these links and more can be found on our website, boostoverball.com. And from us here on the show, as always, remember to choose
hang on.
Boost.
I have one more question.
Oh, yeah?
Are the hitboxes bigger in Texas?
The world may never know.
Ooh.
But everyone, as always, remember to choose Boost over Ball.
Thanks for listening to the Boost Over Ball podcast. Make sure to check out our website at boostoverball.com.